Your hip is tight again, right? Let me guess. You stretch it and it gives you maybe an hour, 2 hours of relief. If you're lucky, a couple days, and boom, it gets tight again. Let me show you a highly effective 15-minute hip routine that you can do in the comfort of your own living room. Just like this, all you need is a couch. I've been giving this to my patients over the past 10 years, and they absolutely love it. And the reason it's so effective is because it's not just a stretching routine. Stretching alone will not do it. This routine trains your hip on how to move and stay open. If you don't believe me when I say stretching won't help permanently, hear me out first, and then you decide. I have 3 rules when it comes to trying to loosen up a joint and get things feeling mobile. Rule number 1, only stretch a muscle if it's actually short. Muscles can feel tight. You can feel like the joint is stiff when the muscle's not actually short. This is often an issue if somebody has a lot of hypermobility or double jointed. The muscles around will stiffen up to guard, but they're not actually short. So why are we going to stretch it? Rule number 2, there's something called a joint capsule, and joint capsule tissue is not the same as muscle tissue. It doesn't really stretch that easily, but your joint capsule can be stiff, and we have to retrain the joint capsule in a different way. Rule number 3, always strengthen or improve motor control before stretching. When we are in clinic and we're trying to figure out why someone has decreased mobility around a joint, we have to figure out, for one, is it a mobility restriction? Like, are tissues actually tight? Or is it a motor control problem, meaning the person can't actually control the movement? More often than not, motor control is a problem, and we have to actually retrain the motor control before we start hammering on the tissues. So in this routine, I'm going to take you through those 3 rules as we go through each exercise. You may need a resistance band depending on how weak you are, and grab a timer. I know you've got a timer in your phone, but this is a great visual. So let's get right to it. All right, so we're going to start with the first one, which is a passive stretch of the muscles at the front of your hip. We also call those your hip flexors. We're going to do the couch stretch. This is one of my favorite exercises because you cannot hide from it. If your hip flexor is tight, whichever area of the front of your hip and thigh is tight, you will feel it. So we're going to start by putting a cushion down right in front of the couch. Depending on how tight you are, you might have to place the cushion a little further. Knee down, foot on couch. You're going to get up into a tall half kneeling position, and immediately you should feel somewhat of a stretch. If you don't feel that yet, then we've got to get your knee closer to the couch, like so. Now, ultimately, you want to get to the point where your knee is folded and your shin is touching the front of the couch. I'm going to set the timer. I'm going to set the timer for 1 minute. So you're going to start by contracting your glute muscle like you want to push your leg back into the couch. And as soon as you do that, you will feel a stretch at the front. Now we want to do a breathing pattern of 4-4. So 4 seconds in through your nose, out through your mouth. 4 seconds in through your nose, then 6 seconds out through your mouth. And then between these breath cycles, I want you to pause and wait for air hunger until you feel like you need to breathe in. So then you're going to breathe in through your nose again, 4 seconds in, and then ultimately get to 8 seconds exhalation through your mouth. And when you do this, all it takes is 5 4/8 to get to 1 minute, and then you're done. And you'll notice that as you go, the stretch becomes easier because you're tricking your nervous system into thinking that you're safe in that position. If you're just, oh, there's a timer. There's another strategy, push into the couch, pushing down, activating the quad muscle, and it may take the stretch away. Hold for 5 seconds and then release. And once you've released, you'll notice you can go a bit further. And if you do this a few times, you'll get even deeper into the stretch. And then you can do your 4-4, 4-6, and 4-8, and it will be very effective. This next one is also a passive stretch, but we'll be working the hip capsule. Now, the hip capsule is a little different than the muscle tissue, where it doesn't really stretch that easily. So we're going to get into a position where the hip capsule is being stretched, but we're going to hold it and then oscillate in and out of that position. We got to find those corners where it feels nasty, but good. You know what I mean? You've probably heard of the pigeon. I'm going to show you how to do it utilizing the couch. I'm going to have one leg on the couch and the trailing leg is going to be down on the floor. The one on the couch is going to be the side that we're stretching. Okay, so we're going to set up here. We also call this Faber, flexion, abduction, external rotation. We've got our leg in rotation here. We want our chest to get as close to our shin as possible. Now, in this position, we're going to rock side to side, forward and back, and really find the tension in that capsule. Let's also set a minute for this. So we're going to rotate out like this, try to get our chest towards our shin. We're going to rock side to side to find those tight edges. Don't force it right off the bat because it's not comfortable. So we want to ease into it and slowly get those tissues to accommodate. As you feel like you're getting a deeper range, then you can try to adjust, pulling your foot further up. If you notice my back leg, I'm using my back leg to rock me forward to get in and out of that position. Feels so bad, but yet so good. Okay. So there you have it. Then you always want to switch and do the other side. We can now get into some active movement, and you can call this strengthening, endurance, muscle activation, whatever you want. But basically, what we're trying to do is get some of these muscles active. So we're talking specifically about the hip flexors at the front, the ones that we all think are so tight. Often they're just weak and underused. So if we get those active, it's going to completely change the way your hips feel and move. I'm going to use this pad just because this couch is a bit low. I want to get a seat where you're roughly 90 degrees. We want to keep our pelvis and our spine nice and straight and stable. We're not trying to use momentum with our bodies. So we're not moving back as we do this. Okay, we're just going to raise our hips. So let's set a timer. This is going to be a tough one, but let's go for a minute. This way it gives us 30 seconds basically each side because we are alternating. Sometimes I think this is more of like a core exercise because if you're doing it properly, trying to stabilize your spine and your pelvis, your core gets a crazy workout without realizing it. Now notice, does one leg go up higher than the other? Does one tire out sooner than the other? These are hints, these are clues that can tell us a lot. Sometimes I think this timer doesn't work. All right, that must be at least a minute. Not sure why it didn't work this time. There you have it. That's the hip flexor march. Now that we've done the hip flexor march, we've got to hit the back of the body. So this is hip flexion. Want to get those hip extensors working, the muscles at the back, the glutes and the hamstrings. We can do the glute bridge march. Another tough one. I'm going to do it right up on the couch here so that you can see. All right, so you're going to position yourself on your back like this. You're going to get up into a glute bridge position. Then all we're going to do is lift and march those legs. So as you lift one leg, the opposite glute or hip extensor has to work to keep your pelvis up. We want to try not to get our hips and our pelvis to drop to the side as you lift one leg. Want to keep it nice and engaged throughout the entire movement. You can use your elbows to push down just as leverage. Oh, yeah. Now, if that is too hard, you can just do a two-legged glute bridge. Now, if you feel like the glute bridge march isn't hard enough, you could always do a single leg bridge. Just make sure you alternate and do both sides. A hip mobility video wouldn't be complete if we didn't get some rotation in there as well. I like to do a seated internal rotation. So you're going to sit nice and tall and put your fists between your knees. Once your fists are between your knees, you're going to just rotate out. It's actually rotating in, but your foot is going to go outward like that. The purpose of the fists are to make sure that your hip doesn't rock inward. Instead, we're getting a nice rotation around this axis. Now, if that is way too easy for you, put a resistance band around your ankles. Next, we're going to continue working on rotation, but we're going to add an exercise that gives you internal and external rotation. One of my favorites, the hip 90-90. So we're going to drop one knee into internal rotation. The other knee comes up into external rotation. Vice versa. Okay, you can even start all the way up here. Then you can get it to flow really nicely. And we can do this with some back support, with your back right up against the front of the couch and your butt on the floor. We can then, once you get better at it, move forward and take away the back support and the arm support and just really control your trunk and your pelvis as you move your hips. So I'll show you exactly how. Get your back resting up against the couch. Have your arms resting on the couch as well. Then you're just going to rotate through. You can start with just the hip switch. Then you can work to the complete 90-90 switch. Making sure your back stays in contact. You're going to feel like your back wants to come forward, but use your arms to just pull you back. Okay, then without the support, then after that, we've got the hip car, the complete articular rotation. On all fours, hands and knees. Make sure that your spine and your pelvis stays nice and flat like a tabletop, controlling that with your core and just allowing the ball and socket joint to move. Make sure you get both sides. We can also do a complete articular rotation in standing. What we're trying to accomplish is to stand on one leg and rotate your entire body around the fixed limb. So your trunk, your pelvis, all nice and stiff, and you're going to rotate around your stance leg. And this is something I teach my athletes all the time. This is what we call a movement dissociation. If you can control one area of the body, keep it stable while you're moving another area of the body, then you can do things really safely. Phase one is to start on one knee with your hands supported on a chair, something sturdy. Then we can move to our rear leg supported up on a bench or a chair. Get that rotation happening in the hip, keeping your lower back nice and straight. It's almost like we're reaching for our front leg with the opposite arm. Phase three, same movement, but we're supporting our body and our balance with our hand. Then from there, we don't need support, progressing to the full hip airplane. This is a difficult movement. So if you're not going very far in terms of range of motion, that's okay. Gradually, you will build up the stability through the hip, pelvis, and the trunk, and you will be able to do it. It just takes some time, takes some practice, and then you'll have great control over your hip joint. Well, there you have it, folks. A full 15-minute hip mobility routine. We went through static stretching of your muscles, even your joint capsule. We then went into activation and endurance of your hip flexors and hip extensors. We even talked about full rotations and complete articular rotations of your hip joint. We ended with the hip airplane, which was one of the toughest movements of your hip. So work through these. You can do it every morning or a few times a week. Thanks for tuning in. This is Adam Chang signing off. Take care, guys.